It's time for Ask the Expert, your chance to learn something new every day. Let's find out who our expert is today.
Well, with us today on Ask the Expert is Mikey Taylor. Mr. Taylor is a entrepreneur. He's a professional skateboarder, probably retired, and public servant, and the mayor of Thousand Oaks for the second time around. Welcome to the program, Mikey Taylor.
Thank you for having me, Barry.
Wow. So how do you feel about being called multifaceted?
You know, it's interesting because I never thought my life would become what it did. And there's aspects of it that feel like a movie. Like I grew up a skateboarder. So I thought skateboarding was it. And then I learned about business. I was like, this is interesting. I didn't plan for that. And then the political side is that was the wild card. I never would have assumed I'd be doing that as part of my life today.
Yeah, it's like you got a ticket to a rocket ship to career land, and you went all the way and you did all the right moves and you did the right stuff to get where you are today, to helping out your community, which is just not very common. You know, when you get success at a young age, you're 22 years old and you're designing shoes, you're designing boards, you're representing Thousand Oaks at the X Games and stuff, and that's where it all began. And then you created a beer. You're an entrepreneur beer. That's just so cool. And it all started with skateboarding. Tell me about the origin story, because guys like you don't come around very often. So I'd love to know.
Okay, so the origin story is this. I picked up a skateboard when I was about 12 years old because I saw some of my friends with skateboards and I wanted to fit in. It was that was the reality. And I got obsessed with it. I loved doing it. I didn't want to stop doing it. And I got to a crossroads, which was I started getting some sponsors. They wanted to start promoting me, but I was about to graduate high school. And I always thought college was going to be in my journey. And so I made a difficult decision, which was I'm going to pursue skateboarding for a little bit. And what I thought was going to be putting college on hold ended up just being moving it off to the side permanently. But I did not expect that in the beginning. And so I started with a skateboarding career. And I originally expected that to last 5 years or so. It went 14. And my model was somewhat simple, but there was a lot of wisdom in it. And that was not created by me. That was created by good guidance around me, which was treat my career like a business. And while I'm in it, make decisions today that will keep me in it for the next 10. So long-term thinking. And then secondarily, the money was not going to be there forever. So the money I'm making today, I need to be very smart with. I need to save. I need to invest and ultimately set myself up for the next show. And that ended up becoming a business that I started in San Diego called Saint Archer, which was a production craft brewery.
Hold on a second. I want to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
The people around you, you had support at a young age that gave you this wisdom. I'm assuming you didn't learn that yourself.
No.
About how to delegate your future. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from? Your parents, or who did you surround yourself with?
Okay, that's a phenomenal question. It came from two people. Number one, when I told my parents I wasn't going to college and I was going to go try to be a skateboarder, and in the skateboarding industry there wasn't a ton of money, my parents got scared. And so they are the ones that said, if you're going to do this, we want you to get some help financially. And so they connected me with somebody who was a financial advisor. He ran a investment advisory firm locally. And he ended up taking me under his wing. I didn't make enough money to have him work with me. I was making $800 a month. But he kind of mentored me as a big brother and helped me get in a position where I was making a little bit more money. And then he's the one that built the foundation. So he's the one that taught me about building my credit and managing a budget and paying myself first. And then all the way to more of the complex ideas, which was building a portfolio of uncorrelated investments that ultimately reduce my downside risk while I could still go after, upside potential. All of that stuff was him.
Wow.
And then I had another mentor in the skate industry whose name was Rob Dyrdek. And Rob Dyrdek was the one that built this idea in me, which was treat this like a business, and every decision today needs to be for 10 years out.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Okay, and that worked for your skateboarding business, and then you went down to San Diego. Is that where the Saint Archer Brewing Company started? How did that happen?
It was. We built our brewery in La Jolla, Miramar, and it happened, for me at least, when I was dating my now wife and asked her father to go out to lunch for permission or his blessing in asking her to marry me. And at that time, I didn't have a business. And so I was unprepared for the type of scrutiny I was going to get for him about what my life was going to look like and how he would find comfort in me really providing for his, potential, my future wife and his daughter. And so he started asking me questions like, what are you going to do after skateboarding? And I said randomly, well,
did you go to your financial advisor and ask him what to tell your future father-in-law?
Honestly, I was 26 years old. I was naive, peak of my career. I legit thought that he was going to be like, of course, we can't wait. We're so excited. And so I was a little bit blindsided. And it ended up being such a big blessing because he pressed me on my answers, which is uncomfortable, but it results in a phenomenal outcome. So when I said, I'll start a business, his response was, what business? I don't know. Well, Mikey, just starting a business is not enough. What makes you think you'll even be good at starting a business? And he started really putting me in a position that, yes, I was uncomfortable. I was a little concerned he was going to say no. He didn't. He said, of course, but I want you to start thinking about these things. And how my brain works, once the thought is up there, it's hard for me to let it go until I know where I'm headed. I am a little bit obsessive in some parts. I've just learned how to make that a productive.
You're goal-oriented. You just goal-oriented. You want to
That's right.
You want to win. You want to get to the finish line. I get
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, I get it.
That's right. So then that led to me going, okay, I'm going to start a business. And I got connected with a friend of mine, and we were talking one night, and he threw out this crazy idea of, why don't we do a brewery? And it was at the time, it was 2011, craft beer was starting to enter into the mainstream marketplace, but there was still potential of growth. And so we came up with this idea. We quickly realized that we didn't have the money to do it. And then I discovered the reality of needing to go raise money. And that was my new learning lesson.
Wow. And so all your financial education came into play at phase 2 of your career trajectory. You got that successful. You sold it to who did you sell that beer company to?
We sold to Miller Coors.
That's a big company to sell it to.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's one of the giants.
I think it's so funny. Are you a beer connoisseur? Do you like beer? Did you like beer going into this, or did you just see the future?
Not a beer connoisseur. If I was going out, I'd drink a Corona, or my palate was so basic. But what I did see was two things. Number one, there was an opportunity. So we saw that there was an emerging market. And when I would go out to, parties at 26, 27 years old, you would still see 80% of the people there bringing your standards, your Coors, your Coronas, your Modelos. But then you saw this pocket which was gaining traction of somebody bringing a Ballast Point or a Racer 5 or some of these other beers that we were like, what is this? So I did see the opportunity. And then secondarily, we had a model that we felt could separate us from everyone else, which was taking our lifestyle, which was skate, surf, snow, music, art, culture, and really creating a California brand through our lens. And that is the factor that separated us from everyone else.
Incredible story. And now you've got, what's the name of that? Commune Capital.
Correct.
That's the next phase, right, Mikey?
Yeah,
Taylor?
that is.
And that's a huge real estate investment company, right? Are you doing that now?
Yeah. So myself and my two partners, I was the first to leave. That's a whole nother conversation on what it feels like to sell a business. Uh-huh. But we eventually all left. And I wanted to go into a completely different space. And in that point of my life, I was really starting to do some, what would be the best way to say this?
Soul searching, discovery,
All of it.
self-discovery.
I was doing all of it. And really what I was trying to figure out is I was in such a unique position compared to all my friends. And I was trying to reverse engineer it and create a pathway that got me here so that I could replicate it for others. And that was two factors. Number one, I had somebody come in and teach me. I got the education, which empowered me to go act. And then secondarily, I had investments coming in. And so I wanted to recreate that. So my firm goes out and finds real estate for people that want to invest in real estate but don't want to actively manage it. And then we do a lot of stuff online around education. So whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, we try to add value to anyone who's following us so that they can be on their wealth journey and, eventually succeed at it.
We're speaking with Mikey Taylor today, mayor of Thousand Oaks, on Ask the Expert. And if you have a question for today's expert, you can call or text 833-346-4626. That's 833-346-4626. Or I'm sure you have a direct line, Mr. Taylor. Do you have an email address or a line people can contact you?
We do. I have a line on the city side, so any of our residents can directly call me or email me for concerns. And then anyone on social that uses it, Instagram is the one that I'm the most active on. Shoot me a DM. I try my best to respond to everyone. The only thing I'm going to ask for is a little bit of grace. I do have a lot of people that send messages. So sometimes, depending on how many, I might take a while to get back to you.
Yeah, there's not very many leaders in our age bracket, so we very much appreciate you doing what you're doing. And now here you are in Thousand Oaks thinking, what is next? You're soul searching. You have this Fortune 500 company, right? It's a big one, giant thing that you've left behind. You've created all of these brands, and now it's time to be a public servant. You want to give back to your friends and neighbors, and boy, we love that so much. What made you come to that decision?
Okay, so the only thing that I will qualify there, I still run my business today. So okay. I'm running my business and I am the mayor of the city. So let's call it two jobs.
Yeah.
On the mayor side, it was really a conversation with my wife. My wife and I were both born and raised here. And my wife took the traditional path that we see in our community, which is when kids graduate, they leave. And then they go to school and then they find areas with a little bit more going on. And then a percentage of them get married, have one kid, maybe two, and then look back and go, you know what? Thousand Oaks would be a great place to go back to raise our family. And that's what my wife did. And so in that, we were having a conversation about what we're lacking here and why so many people leave. And I was just in one of those moods. I basically said to her, instead of us complaining about the things we don't have, like, what if we tried to bring those things online so that more people stayed? And I was definitely being selfish in this thought because I want my kids to stay here too. So I was thinking about my kids. And that conversation ultimately led to my wife saying, well, what can you do? And so that took about 6 or 7 months to figure out where I felt like I could apply my skill set in a way that would benefit our community. And I landed on city council. I'll get involved on the policy making side, and I'll take what I've learned through, economics and building business and employing people and real estate, which is a big factor to city council. And I'll see if I can add value there. And so I ran a campaign. I had no clue what I was doing. I treated it like a startup. It worked. I got elected, and here we are.
Hey, your videos are awesome, man. They tell the story in like a couple of minutes, and I encourage everybody to look up Mikey Taylor on YouTube and check out all of his campaign videos and all of the stories that he's telling in there. It's beautiful work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So how boring are those city council meetings from the beginning? I mean, that's got to be the hardest part of the job. What's the hardest part of being mayor? I might get heat for this one. Some of the meetings can be a little boring, but so much of it in the beginning of me getting elected, our city was going through a big general plan update, which meant we were
kind of re-tagging a lot of our land. And what that means is when you have land, you usually put on paper what can be developed there. It can be housing, it can be commercial. And because of that, that was very comfortable for me. So I kind of got to experience from meeting one, oh, this is my world already, and I enjoyed that part. Some of the other stuff that might be viewed as boring, I actually was entertained by it because it was something new for me. Some of the challenges, you can't make everyone happy. And when you're making a policy, it's very rare that there's a perfect solution. So you are kind of stuck in a scenario where you're trying to find the best option, even though it's not the greatest. And that's not easy. It's hard to make decisions knowing that it's imperfect in places and that some people aren't going to like it.
How open were the other city councils to you when you started expressing your interest in joining the council? Was it fairly easy to get people to, I don't know, endorse you or say that they're on board?
That's such a phenomenal question. It was mixed. So I would say there's a little bit of like political behind the scenes stuff that most people aren't aware of. I was not. And that is usually people put in a lot of time involved in some way in the city before they become city council. So maybe they're a traffic commissioner, a planning commissioner. And because of that, when I ran, there were people that were doing that. And so I think naturally you feel like I've put in the work and it's my time to do this. I kind of came in the side. And so I think for some people, they were like, hey man, you didn't do the normal route to get here. But that seems to be the story of my life. Like looking at everything I've done, I am atypical. I seem to always be the outlier and I seem to do it differently. You know, sometimes that really works out, but I'm not going to say it's always the most comfortable. Sometimes it is an uncomfortable position. Yeah.
I could imagine. Well, I can't imagine. I mean, there's not a lot of people your age doing this kind of job. So we really appreciate you leading the way for the rest of us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then what I will say is when you're running a campaign, sometimes they get nasty. And so I think...
Yeah, did you do any smear campaigns on your neighbors?
I did not. I do not I try to just be more positive in everything I do. That doesn't mean I don't internalize it or it's hard for me. I just don't like attacking people. And so I didn't do that. I definitely had my fair share of attacks at me, but I looked at it as, okay, now that I'm elected, I have an opportunity to show people how I actually am. You're going to see how I work in real time. And so I looked at that as an opportunity. And I would say the first year was actually very positive. I got to maybe change some opinions on others. And then by year 2, I think everybody had a pretty good idea of who I am and how I operate.
We're speaking with the mayor of Thousand Oaks, Mikey Taylor, today on Ask the Expert. And if you have a question, hit him up on the DMs. What is it, Mikey Taylor? Is that your...
Correct.
Or you can call 833-346-4626, and we'll ask him in a future episode. So talk to us about the future of Thousand Oaks. There's a lot going on. Malls are changing from what I hear. I mean, we're your neighbors over here on... what do we call it? The other side of the Conejo grade.
Yeah.
We just hear about things on our side. So fill us in on some of the things you're working on and your hopes for the future.
Okay. So some of the big initiatives that our city's working on, and then, some of those I sit on committees that are really driving it forward. Number one, we're looking at economic growth. So we live in a state where it's just expensive to live here. And so if it's going to be expensive to live here, we need to be really mindful that the jobs that are available actually put you in a position to stay here. So we're doing a lot on that, making sure that we have the correct policies in place where industries want to come in and invest, which means more jobs created. Secondarily, you need the housing available. So I would say if you're under 40, you're a first-time home buyer, you're looking around going, how do I do this? We are in a very unique moment where the path to ownership is much more murky than it was when I was 20 years old. So we're doing what we can inside of our city policy that is somewhat constrained by what the state policy is. but we're definitely trying to figure out how to make housing more affordable so that when an employer comes into our area, they actually have the housing to put their employees into. They go hand in hand. So we're putting a lot of energy towards that.
Housing is a major issue. Number one issue in California, I think.
That's right, 100%.
They're building a lot over here in the Somas area and Oxnard over there by the river.
Yep.
And it's a big deal. So glad you're on top of things over there. Well, I'd love to have you back. This is an open door here. It's very easy to get on the air with us here on Ask the Expert. So if there's anything that you have coming up, anything you'd like to tell the rest of the county about, the door's always open here for you, Mikey Taylor. You can ollie in here. I'm sure you've heard all of the puns, right?
I love it.
Every single pun in the world. You probably have you heard from any legendary skateboarders like congratulating you for crossing the barrier from entertainer to, public servant?
Yeah, you know what I would say? When I moved into my business, which is Commune Capital, that's the investment firm, I got a lot of pros, legendary pros that loved it because the pain point that I went through is very similar to them. I had a lot of fans though, and kids that were skating that did not like it because they wanted to see me skateboard. They didn't want to see me talk about investing. And what I will say though is when I became mayor, a lot of press went out in the skate community because I became the first pro skateboarder that became a mayor. And I got a huge amount of support for that. So it was really cool to see that side of it. And I think, the part that I just feel a blessed position to be in, if I can break down barriers and I can be the one that shows another skater, hey, you know what? You don't think we can do this? Well, Mikey did it. And what I will say is there's nothing that special about me. Like I really am just a skater that went to high school, graduated, then figured it out on his own. And if I can open the door for the next kid that goes, if he did it, I can as well. That's a pretty fulfilling position to be in.
Mikey Taylor, mayor of Thousand Oaks. It is true what they say about you. You are multifaceted. I think we just learned all of that about you. So for those of us that want to reach out to you about anything at all, what's the best line of communication for you?
I would say start with social. It's Mikey Taylor on any of the socials. Send me a message. Our company, if you're interested in learning about how investing works, it's called Commune Capital. You can find us on any of the socials as well. And then next time we do this again, I'll make sure to at least put some polls up before so that we can bring people in and ask questions in real time.
It's a good idea. Mikey Taylor, thank you for being our expert today.
Barry, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Where we live and the places we spend our time help shape who we become. For me, this was Thousand Oaks. When I was young, I didn't really think much about the impact my community would make on me. Kind of seemed like my parents chose to live here and I was just along for the ride. Looking back, there were some very significant events that would help mold the man I would become. The first one being skateboarding. Every day after school, we would all meet at Borchard Park. That was one of the few places where we were able to skate, and it actually kept a lot of us out of trouble. As teenagers, we were trying to figure out who we were, and skateboarding helped bring out some of those undiscovered qualities. I learned about delayed gratification because skateboarding took so long to land a trick that I learned what it felt like to stick with something. I became resilient in my outlook of failure, and I started looking at the world through a very creative lens. Little did I know this would be the beginning of what would turn into a long and successful career as a pro skateboarder. I started getting highlighted on covers of magazines, traveling the world, and also was able to buy my first house at 22 years old. A week before I closed escrow, I ran into my neighbor who was home from college on her Christmas break. I saw her out front, I asked her out to dinner, and this would become another impactful moment in my life because years later, we would get married. One thing that I was and still am attracted to in my wife is how smart and driven she is. She has a bachelor's degree from Point Loma. She got an additional degree from FITM in interior design, which led to her ultimately creating her first design studio. We used to stay up at night talking about business, and it was actually her who encouraged me to create my first business outside of the skateboarding industry. In 2012, 2 of my friends and I started a craft brewery called Saint Archer. We didn't have enough money to start the company between the 3 of us, so we went out, created a business plan, raised $2.5 million in a seed round to launch our business. Once we opened doors, we quickly became one of the fastest growing breweries in California, which eventually led to the sale of our company to Miller Coors. From there, I started a private equity real estate firm called Commune Capital. The company's purpose is doing good by doing well, educating our community on finance through social media, and working to leave a lasting impact in the cities which we build or improve infrastructure. All of that was the easy part. The hardest and most rewarding thing in my life is being a dad. I have 10 and 7-year-old girls. My son is 2, and we're expecting a new one any day. And they are the main reason why I'm running for city council, because my wife and I are choosing to raise our kids in the community which we grew up in. We are working hard to instill the values that we had growing up, and we want them to be positively impacted like we were from their community. Enjoying open spaces and parks, to always feel safe when they're out. We want them to be inspired to create, to know the owners of the shops they go to, and to ultimately want to work or start business here in Thousand Oaks, with the ultimate goal of raising their kids in our community. This is a goal that many of us parents have, and I am the perfect person who shares our Thousand Oaks values and also has the skill set to lead our city in the right direction.